there is a whole mechanism that takes place around that, and a mechanism of what we would call transmutation, okay? A transmutation of your ethereal state, your ethereal body into the physical state and the physical body. One of the biggest obstacles that people face is not being present. They're all over the place. They're worrying about bills, they're worrying about money, they're worrying about work, they're worrying about children, they're worrying about this, that, and the other. Don't worry about passion. Forget about that. That's a buzzword. A lot of other, it's used too much, okay? And in fact, it doesn't serve. Do things, right, from an intrinsic state of being.
Welcome to the Martian Mind Power Podcast. I'm Jatinder with Sifu Lak, and we're going to be bringing you some more bombshells from the amazing book, The Art of Thinking Without Thinking. Sifu Lak, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good, thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing what magic words the amazing wise book brings up for us today. And should we get straight into it?
Let's jump in, man. Jump in.
All right. Do you want to say the magic words?
Stop.
Okay. Let's see what happens here. Right. This looks interesting. Dancing a Dream Awake, page 158.
158.
Interesting, Koan.
Okay. All right. So without you reading it, okay. So try not to peek. All right.
I've covered it up. I've just got the actual title bit. Dancing a Dream Awake.
So let's do this. Before we go into it, let's just show the viewers what the image is with this. All right. Mm-hmm. So dancing a dream awake. Okay. It's the image of water, right? And in the water is, imagine a little drop's been dropped from a height, and the water's showing a ripple with some of the water that's bouncing up, and it looks like the amount of water that's bouncing up looks like somebody dancing. Okay. So there you go. Nice, beautiful piece of artwork there.
That's a nice picture.
Yes. So what do you think?
All right. So dancing a dream awake. This is an interesting one. All sorts is coming up for this one. I suppose the one that comes to the surface the most is almost like we hear about how life is an illusion and that it's almost like a dream that we're in and that we're living it, but we might not necessarily be awake to that dream. So dancing a dream awake is almost like, are we just floating through life as it is, or are we awake to it, or whatever? Are we in the flow of it? That kind of thing is what comes up, right?
Yeah, very good. Very good. Now you're on the right lines. So dancing a dream awake. Okay. Now this comes from a Toltec belief. Okay. So I'm not going to read the koan yet. Okay. We'll save that till the end. But the ideas behind this is, number one is got in the koan itself, dancing a dream awake. So you got dream and awake. Okay. So this is talking to bringing your dreams into reality. All right. Okay. So if you want to put it another way, it's awakening your dream. All right. So you start to see that there's a process that's happening from dream state to your wake state reality. All right. So, and the idea about dancing a dream awake is about being playful with it. Okay. And having a fun with that whole idea. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there is a whole mechanism that takes place around that, and a mechanism of what we would call transmutation. Okay, a transmutation of your ethereal state, your ethereal body, into the physical state and the physical body, right? Other people in general might refer to this as manifestation. Okay, but ultimately what's happening is transmutation.
So one of the other things that pops up with that is the universe, right? So the word universe has the word music, almost like dance in it as well. So when you were sharing the title before, that came to mind as well. Like, are we dancing in the universe? As you know, are we part of that flow?
Yeah, and we covered that in a different koan, right? So the thing is, nothing is separate here. Everything is related. Everything is part of one. And because it's part of one, it also allows you to embrace it all, right? In totality. But when you start to think of, this part is separate to that, and this part is separate to this, and so on, all of a sudden you start to create a state of partiality, right? When you create a state of partiality, how are you going to create a totality? And totally be embodied within transmuting something from one state into another state. We're just talking states here, right? Okay. So we have to think about it holistically. So on top of that, there's also the whole argument. The pessimist or the skeptic will say, well, you can't, manifest dreams. That's not a reality. That's not real. Okay, you're right if you think you're right. And for those people that do believe it to be true, or even better still, know it to be true, are those people that actually do it. Yeah, take you from dream to reality. Does that make sense? And when you do that, then it reaffirms that this mechanism works, that you can make your dreams come true, as it were. But here's the thing. The beauty about it is this koan is titled Dancing a Dream Awake. It's not titled Fighting a Dream Awake. It's not titled Struggling a Dream Awake. It's not titled Stressing a Dream Awake. It's titled Dancing a Dream Awake. When you dance, when you truly dance and you're truly in the moment, nothing else exists. You're right here in the present. Okay.
Yep.
So in order to transmutate states, you've got to be present. If there's a minutia of you sitting outside of that, ain't gonna happen. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter what you try, ain't gonna happen. You have to be present to make it a reality. And that means that is a dissolution. That means getting rid of everything outside of that. Okay. And that's one of the things that, other than people's belief systems, right? Whether you believe this can happen or not happen, right? One of the biggest obstacles that people face is not being present. They're all over the place. They're worrying about bills. They're worrying about money. They're worrying about work. They're worrying about children. They're worrying about this, that, and the other. And it's just carrying all of that, their minds in several places. You need to completely be collected right here in order to make it happen. So that's I think one of the key things. And when that happens, I think there is a transcendence, right? To dance a dream awake, there is a transcendence, a transcendental motion that takes place. Now, that transcendental motion is when you become present and you start to transcend, you start to become one with it. This is a flow state. This is peak state. This is now you're starting to manifest your dreams, right? And what I'd like to ask our audience is, have you ever experienced things just falling into place and working out so perfectly that you think, oh, wow, that was just so easy? You know, you might have thought something and bang, 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 sequence of events happens and you think, oh, wow, that was amazing. That just happened automatically, right? You didn't strain, you didn't stress, there was no tension. It just happened. Now that, my friends, is flow state. Let me say that again. That, my friends, is flow state. Okay. And when that flow state happens, what you want to do is not hold on to the flow state, because you start to become rigid and you start to ruin the flow. What you want to do is carry on being detached. Detachment is the key to flow state. Water doesn't attach to anything. I mean, water, let's take water as an example, as the most flowy substance. Water doesn't attach to anything. You got to let it keep flowing. The moment you try and trap it, it's now not flowing anymore. The moment you put it into a cup, it's no longer flowing anymore. A stream just flows wherever it needs to flow. And just like the stream, just let it go wherever it needs to go. And trust and have faith in whatever you need, wherever you need to be, whatever you need to do, whatever resources you need to do the work that you need to do out into the world will come time appropriately. And all of a sudden, everything starts happening time appropriately. Your life starts to become good. It starts to become great. It starts to become awesome. And, you know, I don't want to sound like one of these personal development gurus that, you know, say, you know, want you to try and build your best life and this, that, and the other, you know, and hype it all up. We're talking about the mechanics here at a fundamental, both ethereal and physical level that are going to make it happen. Okay. And this is not textbook either. This is through personal experience and years and years and years of practice. And let me tell you one thing, going in and out of flow state, the frequency in which you do that will increase the more you get into flow. The trick is to stay there, right? And as we're all human, we're all emotional, and that's when you start grabbing onto the flow and then you lose it. Okay. So we're all susceptible to that, including me. And if you start to get stressed by that, then actually you put the flow further out of reach. All right. So you see there's like a stack here of levels of attainment that you need to get to. And if you can start to practice that, then all of a sudden you'll just find yourself just flowing. All right.
No, definitely. I mean, it's a nice sounding one as well, because, you know, you got it saying dancing a dream awake. There's it's so deep in what comes out of it, in the sense that, for example, dream has got many kind of connotations to it as well. Like, one is obviously when you go to sleep and you have a dream, and then you have dreams of things you want in life to achieve and whatnot, you know, to dream of it. And even like with dancing, when you start to dance, you have to sit down and kind of almost like choreograph it, like the movement, how it's going to be, what music you're going to use, how you're going to put it together. And the choreographer sees this in their mind. They plan it out that this is what's going to go on. So there's a direct kind of almost like link to setting goal setting, like putting a vision out there and then planning and preparing for it. And then, you know, you're choreographing it, and then you're living out the dance and the dream, you know, to kind of tune into that, to make your goals and dreams and desires all come true. And it's like you said, when you get into that dance state, it's like harmonic. There's harmony, there's rhythm, there's beat, there's movement, you know, there's movement being the key one. And as you go with that, you're in flow, you're in a dance state. And, you know, if you have ever been into that present moment while you're dancing, it's nice. It's like a nice flow. Things just seem to go in the motion. And there's a good way to link it to what you describe flow. It's almost like living the dream. Sorry, dancing the dream is like being in flow with life. because life is that dream as well as the goal, right? So it's kind of deep in in how you can take meaning from that. So yeah, I just wanted to share on that because people can tie that in just in case people are thinking, well, how do you manifest something, right? Just like the choreographer who sits down and says, okay, we're going to do this routine. We're going to put this song together. We're going to put these movements together. This is how it's going to look. This is to set the stage. This is what's going to happen. This is the kind of influence it's going to have on people's emotions and whatnot. And then they put it together. It's like an action plan almost, right? So that's how manifestation is done. If you want something, you're dreaming it. You're conceiving the idea of it, as Napoleon Hill would say, wherever you can believe and conceive, you can achieve, right? So whatever you could conceive and believe, you can achieve. So you conceive the idea, you believe it, and then you can achieve it. And it's just like that. So you're putting it out there. The manifestation is also, to bring about things, to put things in place. It's not like it's just going to pop out of nowhere, but it's like planning and putting the effort and energy into it, so that almost telling the universe, I'm ready for this,
Absolutely. And, while you were talking there, and you just mentioned Dr. Napoleon Hill, who really was the trigger for all the work in this martial mind power space. Okay, yeah. Where some of Bruce Lee's annotated notes contained some teachings and his personal exercises based on Napoleon Hill's work, in particular, the definite chief aim and martial arts. This is where the two combined, and actually you realize the whole process is about self-development, self-realization, and self-actualization. And for the longest time, Dr. Napoleon Hill's most famous and my favorite quote is, what the mind can conceive and believe you can achieve. I've just had a bit of a revelation. Rather than what the mind can conceive and believe, I want you to change that belief, right? Because belief is
made up.
Belief is not knowing. It's not knowing, okay? You believe something because you don't actually know it's true. You don't actually know it exists. You don't actually know what it is, okay? You don't actually know whatever, right? But in this space, dreaming is acting. Dreaming is the reality of its own, just in a different dimension, right? And let's call that, if you must, the mental dimension, the mind's dimension, okay? Not the physical dimension, the mind's dimension. Let's just put it that way, okay? In that dimension, in that moment, when you're living that experience, that is absolutely 100% real, okay? How many times, or let me just ask a question a slightly different way. Have you ever woken up crying because you've had a dream which was upsetting? I'll put my hand up to that.
I don't think I've woken up crying, but I have definitely woken up where I'm feeling really sad or like, oh my goodness, kind of thing, Yeah.
Okay. So I use crying as an extreme one because I think I had a dream somebody died. This was ages ago. Somebody died, and I was really upset, and I didn't want them to die. I woke up, really upset, crying, and I was, it was kind of a bit of a shock. And then I realized that when I came out of my sleep, out of that dream state, that
it's just a dream, innit?
it was just a dream. But that experience felt so real. It was real because I brought it with me.
It's crazy,
right?
Isn't it?
So it's connected, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I had to break out of it, right? And it took me a short while to kind of, get back into state and realize that actually it was just a dream. Check on the person that, I dreamt about, make sure that it was all right. So the point is, that's just to kind of help you understand the reality aspect of dreaming, okay?
As well as the illusion side of it as well.
as well as the illusion side of it as well, right? So they happen hand in hand, right? It's real in that world, but in the physical world, it's not real. Thank God for in that particular example, it wasn't, right? But then there's the other part of the dreaming where you might be aspiring to create something, to be something, to, cultivate your true, authentic, higher self and connect with source, right? Which is ultimate goal in life. Now, let's just say, right, you dream about that and you can feel all the sensations that you would feel if you attained that. And you brought that back into this reality, right? Into the physical reality. How amazing would that be? Now, the thing is, when it happens in that reality, it's real. It's not you believe it, it's real. You know it. Now, coming back to this Dr. Napoleon Hill quote, I like I said, it's been the mantra. But this revelation that I've just had while you were talking there previously is that, and we've said this previously as well, act as if, okay? When you're going out in the world and going to go and do some great work and be of great service to humanity and all sentient beings and Mother Earth, right? Go out there as if you've already achieved it, right? This is no longer a belief. Now, right? You're taking away belief and you're saying, I know, okay? So you could turn that statement, that amazing quote, right? And even make it even more amazing in your own way by saying, what the mind can conceive and know, it can achieve. I mean, that just spins the whole thing around, doesn't it? Because now you know, right? And we constantly keep saying, act as if you've already achieved what you want to achieve. Now there's no doubt anymore. Now belief is filled with doubt. Because the moment you stop disbelieving, you've got doubt. But it's just belief. Part of belief is doubt. Because you don't know.
I just want to drop in a little disclaimer there in the sense that, people listening in on this who may take it the wrong way as well, is like, Lax is not saying you to go out and act like a millionaire and blow all your wealth, yeah? Right, that's just an example where you gotta have some common sense about what Lax is actually saying here. It's like the example he's giving is when he woke up from the dream, it felt as if he was still in the dream, right? At that moment, it was the real. Yeah, it's that kind of intensity of your knowingness of what you want to achieve is what he's talking about. That's what So if you're, for example, you to be courageous, you're not going to dream. Be courageous. Yeah, you might not feel it, it might not be it, but just be courageous. Actually go in there. Like, what is courage? Or how does that feel? How do you experience? There'll be moments when you have been courage. What was that about? Bring that into the front. That's the kind of stuff he's talking about. Like, not woo-woo stuff, not like just blow your wealth or anything like that, but actually like, be in the moment, because there's no past and present there. It's like you are being that thing at that moment in time.
It's wise advice, JT, because the thing is that you can't take this literally. This advice and guidance and wisdom that we're sharing is of a spiritual nature, right? And in order to understand how that translates into real life, you've got to permeate those teachings and practice them, but practice them, like you said, with one, common sense, and two, intelligence. Right? Everyone's got intelligence, but not everyone's got common sense. So why we call it common sense? It's uncommon sense, right? So be mindful, act as if, but my caveat to that would be live and act within your means. Okay. So you want to become a millionaire, act as if you're a millionaire, but don't go spend what you haven't got.
Exactly. But at the same time, utilize what Lax is sharing about dream, right? Like, if you want to become a millionaire, what does that look like? What is it what service are you going to be able to provide to people? What does that as a monetary thing look like? What do you need to do in order to do that? Right? And plan it, prepare it, dream about it, focus on it, and then live it.
Yeah. And, here's the thing. to the audience. This podcast, we don't focus so much on money, right? Why? Because there's a million and one other people out there with get rich schemes and how to have a millionaire's mindset and all that bullshit, right? The thing is, we already know that money doesn't make you happy. And I can clarify that with a report I read on, it's an article that I read on lottery winners. And it said that most lottery winners wish they never had the money, wish they never won, because they're miserable. They lost all their loved ones, right? Because of the money. They couldn't handle it. And they're miserable and their lives are ruined. And they wish they'd never had the money in the first place. This comes down to the fact that actually, one, they didn't know how to handle the energy. If you treat money as energy, and if you don't know how to handle it, then it's going to damage you. It's going to hurt you. But there was another article that I read very recently, and it basically spoke to this point, and it said that if you are already happy and you come into wealth, you generally likely to continue to be happy. If you're a miserable git and you come into money, you're more likely to continue being a miserable git. All right. So it starts off with your initial state anyway. Right. So if you come into money and you have a bad attitude right from the beginning, that attitude is probably going to get a bit worse, and your life surrounding you is probably going to get a bit worse because you can't handle it. And when you amplify that, it's going to go out of control, and you're going to lose your bearings. You're going to lose your grip on things, and is what seems to be happening when people do come into money. So.
Nice quote. It reminded me of a nice quote one of my friends told me once. He said, so this guy's quite wealthy, he's quite, connected and whatnot. And he said, Jatinder, money just makes you more of who you are. Right. And I thought, wow, I found that fascinating. So he said, find out who you are and you'll know what to do with the money. And I thought, wow, how amazing is that?
And that's exactly where you should be putting it, because look, we're in this lifetime for a very short period, okay? I don't know what the average lifespan of a human being is, let's say 75, 80 years, whatever it might be. But in the overall scheme of things, the universe is billions of years old, okay? Or young, you might want to put it that way. And as a consequence, those 70, 80 years, are nothing, okay? But during that time, we've got a soul's mission, as in we're born on and put on this planet Mother Earth to serve in some capacity or to learn in some capacity, to transcend, to evolve spiritually. And really, our one key purpose in this lifetime is to discover what the reason is, and then to serve in that highest light. And any resources you're given are given for you to do that work. Okay, that is it. You won't be given any more than you need. You won't be given any less than you need. You'll be given exactly what you need to evolve, right? And if you happen to have a little blip in the matrix and come into a bit extra, chances are you're going to piss it away because it wasn't meant to be for you anyway. But you called upon it so hardly that you made it happen, but couldn't handle it anyway, which is why it wasn't destined for you. Does that make sense? Right. So the focus here is not to create millionaires. The focus is here to create spiritual wealth, and that will create mental wealth, emotional wealth, and physical wealth. Okay. And when you create wealth from that way, from top down, all of a sudden, your life becomes very wealthy. You don't have to have loads of money to be rich. I know someone will turn around and say, well, say that to someone that's, hasn't got any food in their cupboard. I get it. I'm not saying anything about that. And you have my full sympathies for people that are struggling, for people in the poverty line with the rising cost of living and everything else. I get that. So this is by no means talking down or denigrating anybody in that respect. Okay. But we're coming from the space that if you are wealthy inside through spirit, mind, emotion, body, then you can navigate through this life, right? With clarity, with composure, okay, being calibrated, right? And having a clear sense of being, okay? It's when and you could do that even if you don't have much money, all right? But if you don't have much money and you don't have that wealth of spirit, mind, and emotions and body, that will kind of cause a further decline, okay, in all of those faculties. And which one would you rather have? And if we're basically saying the constant is not having enough money, okay, have been in some level of poverty or just being poor, all right? Now, just think about that for a moment, right? Here we're saying, okay, regardless of whether there's money or no money, maintain yourself, okay? Cultivate yourself, cultivate your body, cultivate your mind, cultivate your emotions, cultivate your spirit, right? And stay centered and allow yourself to navigate through this lifetime with calmness, with composure, with that calibration, have that confidence, have that certainty about how you move through life. And that way, the money's regardless, you'll find a way. You'll find a way. And always a way works out.
Definitely, man.
And this is where you've got to have that faith, not belief, faith.
Yeah, and definitely. I mean, it's so interesting. I mean, we're quite fortunate, like the kind of circles and connections we have in personal development and the business world. And the common thing that keeps coming up with everyone that we speak to is mindset. They all talk about mindset. They said nothing is worth anything without the mindset around it. And that's the bit we're trying to work on, is say, if everything is mindset, isn't that what we should focus on then? Because it's like what Lak said, you center yourself, align yourself with your mind, body and spirit, then what can you say is not possible to do then? It's like anything's possible, I would imagine, right? You just got to get the framing of it. And that's what a coach does. Coach gets your mindset right, and any spiritual teacher, martial arts is all about that. And mind, it's about discipline. If you look at that, Bruce Lee was heavy on mindset. Did I tell you that one time I had that dream when I was in the dream I was running, and I was chasing Bruce Lee, right?
What did you do?
I was chasing him, and it was like we were almost like sparring, and he jumped on top of I think it was like an old Cortina or something. I'm not sure. He must have jumped on top, and he's standing like this, and his eyes are bulging red, and he's like looking at me. And I'm kicking him in the ribs on the sides. Like you do the conditioning martial art techniques when you kick the ribs, the legs, just to condition the body. It was one of those things, and I'm kicking him, right? And he's looking at me, and he said to me, because the power does not lie in the body, the power lies in the mind. And I woke up, right? And I jumped out of bed. So like the experience you had with like almost the crying state. I jumped out the opposite with this one. I jumped out of bed and went, what? I said, take me back. But that was all about mindset. And I thought, I just felt that was like a blessing to say it's mindset, focus on mindset,
And that's what the podcast is all about. It's about mind power, okay? But inspired through martial arts, hence martial mind power. And really, you're spot on there, JT, bringing it back to core, bringing it back to what Bruce Lee would have called the nucleus, right? Talking about the nucleus, a little explanation around that. Bruce always said, if you're going to learn something, you're going to develop anything, start from the nucleus and develop outwards, okay? So the nucleus, what is the nucleus? That's the center, right? That's the base, okay? If if your starting point is moving around all over the place, right? You ain't got a base. You're not going to have a reference point, and you're never going to be able to grow outwards. Okay, you got no foundation. There's no soil to sow the seeds on which to cultivate. Add water, add nutrients, minerals, fuel, and sunlight for it to start to sprout and flourish and bloom, and allow the fragrance to then spread out into the world. None of that's going to exist. So always start from the nucleus, right at the center, and then grow outwards. So
a
that
tree
sense
with no roots will always get blown over by the wind. I just made that up.
It's true.
It's true.
It's 100% true. I spent some time in the Amazon, and a lot of people might not know this, especially if you've not been to the Amazon, but the Amazon floor bed is made of clay. Okay, so clay is really thick and obviously doesn't hold water, right? Inside it, because it's essentially waterproof. So if you're in a clay environment and there's heavy rains, it floods really quickly because the water stays on top of the clay. Mm-hmm. The plants there are so clever. In particular, the trees, right? They've got massive trees, right, in the Amazon jungle. But these trees, rather than have their roots in the ground, their roots are on the ground. Wow. And they're like I can't remember exactly the name of the tree, but their trees are like, imagine a tripod. Okay.
Wow.
Where it spreads out. So it creates this kind of tripod structure right at the base to create a firm foundation, right? So that it can't topple over. That's what the trees have adapted to do in the clay bed of the Amazon. Is absolutely amazing, honestly. And if anybody's ever been to the Amazon, they'll also tell you trekking through the Amazon is hard work because you are trekking through clay. And the drier it gets, the easier it gets to walk. But it's never dry in the Amazon. It's always moist and humid, and the clay is squidgy. And if you haven't got the right footwear, you're going to lose your shoes in that clay. It's that tough. And the trees have adapted. But this is coming back to you. If you don't have strong roots, the tree will get blown over. And just like the Amazonian trees adapt, develop the roots, develop the foundation, develop your center, develop your nucleus, and then grow outwards from there.
I was going to say, let's change that quote to solid base as opposed to roots.
Solid base, huh?
Solid base.
Exactly. So yeah, create solid base. And that, the thing is, I want to bring this back down to, where we started with this dancing a dream awake. We started off, talking about, being in the now, being present. When you're in the now, it brings you joy. Okay. That's what you'll feel. If you want to know when you're in the now, you'll feel joy. Like when you're dancing, you'll feel joy. Okay. When you're playing, you'll feel joy. Okay. When you're having a laugh, you'll feel joy. You can't do any of those things without not being present. You automatically puts you in the present place. Okay. When you're in the flow, it puts you into bliss. Okay. Bliss is not joy. Bliss is something else. Okay. It's even better than that. It's not being happy or sad. It's just bliss. Bliss is just bliss. And it doesn't matter what's going on around you. Bliss is bliss. You can exist in bliss even when the catastrophe is happening around you. Believe it or not. Okay. So, there's that story that I think you shared with the Guruji that was running away from the oppressors and ran into a jungle, and his two kids had run off as well. And later on, one of the disciples of this guru that was being chased by some army had found him in a blissful state. And the disciple asked him, "Aren't you worried about your two kids that run off some other direction in the jungle?" He said, "No." He goes, "Because it's God's will. I know he's got it." Right. So being in a blissful state under extreme situations is something that we can cultivate, but it takes a lot of practice, right? For those of you that are kind of, again, maybe skeptical around this, like how can you be blissful in a traumatized environment where there's, you know, the impending threat of death, for instance? Well, you can. Our Gurujis did it, right? And we're talking about, which Guru was it?
So that one would have been Guru Gobind Singh Ji.
Right. So it's our 10th Guru, right? And then there's 10th Sikh Guru. And this is an amazing story where it shows the level that you can cultivate your being to be or become. And no matter what a situation happens, you'll be in a blissful state. Now, it takes work, okay? And I'm constantly working on it. JT's working on it. And we just, you know, want to be in that, you know, what I call it God bliss state, or we call it Sat Chit Ananda in Sanskrit as well. Sat meaning truth, Chit meaning consciousness, Ananda meaning bliss. Truth, consciousness, bliss, or true bliss. I just call it God bliss as a shortcut, because ultimately, when you get into that state, right, you got now creates joy. You've got flow that creates bliss, and then that bliss then starts to take you higher. You can attain that God bliss or the Satchitananda. That is a whole new level of being. Now, if you,
it's also what Bruce Lee used to allude to when he was talking about self-actualization, you know, because there's not that state is very present, very about knowing who you are and what you're about. And that's what Bruce was trying to attain as well, with getting to a state of absolute self-actualization. To honestly, what does he say? To, I forgot the quote now.
honestly express yourself.
Honestly express yourself. That's it.
Yep.
To honestly express yourself, that, my friend, is a hard thing to do.
Very hard to do. Exactly. I want to share one more thing, really, in order to kind of close out the teachings that I want to share and the wisdom that I want to share around this koan, and then we'll cover yours, and then we'll read the koan. And that was my Guruji, Guru Preceptor Paramahansa Yogananda Ji. He's the author of Autobiography for Yogi, and for anyone that's interested, you can go to the Self-Realization Fellowship and read more about meditations and Kriya Yoga and cultivating self-realization. Well, Guruji, he talks about, you know, in the physical world, you've got electrons, okay? Okay, you got protons and neutrons as well, but he just says electrons, okay? Just to simplify and group the physical representation of that, right? And then above that, you've got, he says you've got thoughttrons, okay? Now, thougtrons are the things that you think about, the things that your mind creates, okay? And you put it out there, okay? And it can change the intrinsic being of things. Now, all you need to do is to look up some of the work by Dr. Masaru Emoto, and how he did some experiments where people thought bad things to a glass of water, it would change its intrinsic crystalline structure. And if some people thought good loving things to a glass of water, it would change its intrinsic crystal structure. The negative crystal structures for the bad thoughts would look demonic, and the positive loving thoughts that were sent to the water would look beautiful, okay, absolute crown-like, okay. So we know there's evidence already, and that's just one of many, right, that we can change, our thoughts can affect reality, okay. And then above that, Guruji talks about lifetron, okay. Now, lifetrons is about energy, okay. This is your life force, okay. Your life force can create things, okay. So when you're dreaming, okay, although you're embodied in an electronic electron state. Okay, it's your thoughttrons and your lifetrons that are creating. All right.
Okay. Sounds like Transformers.
Well, this is it. We were talking about transmutation.
Exactly.
Right. Transform. Essentially, what we're talking about, dancing a dream awake, is be a transformer. I love it. I love it. So anything you want to add, JT?
No, just Transformers. Did you used to think it used to say Transformers? Did you know it was Transformers, robots in disguise, or did you used to think it said robots in the sky? You know, Transformers, robots in the sky, but it was actually robots in disguise, right?
That's funny, right? Because my daughter and my wife, they constantly, because I'll sing songs the way I hear them, and I clearly have a problem hearing, because the way I hear songs is not the way they're actually sang. So I'll make up some goofy. Sometimes I'll do it on purpose, but sometimes, you know, it will. The feedback I get from them is, "You've ruined this song for me." Funny, right?
I've ruined Transformers. No,
right? But you remind me of that, because, and there's like hundreds of songs where I've just got a whole different kind of lyrical kind of list in my head, right, for the way it sounds to me. But obviously, you know, when you actually see the lyrics, you think, "No way! How could they be saying that?" But that makes sense, though. Exactly. But I like my version now, because that's how I've heard it.
That's it. That's right. This is it. It's like this. It's like it's almost like it's an illusion state what we've just been sharing, isn't it? Because you hear something, and for some reason you've heard it not what exactly it is, but you've heard it the way you wanted to hear it, or whatever came across for you at that time when you heard it. It's the same when you see things. Sometimes you see things and it's not necessarily what you think it is, right? Because, you know, one of the examples a good friend Suki gives is when you have a phone, right? If you got a phone, it's like you're going to see this side of the phone. Okay, no advertisements there, but you know, I'm going to see this side of the phone, right? But it's like we're going to see different things, but it's the same thing technically, right? So it's fascinating that, you know, that dream state we were talking about and coming out of a dream state, and then how that dream can feel real, and then how we manifest real dreams in our real life as well. It's just like the interconnectedness of that is fascinating, right? So that's all I wanted to share at the end, is that think big, dream big, you know, and make it happen.
Well, you know, I love saying this to help inspire people, you know, is aim for the stars. Even if you land in the sky, you'll be best pleased.
Right? Yeah, no, definitely. Well, one of my friends said something similar. He said, aim for nothing, you're here every time.
Well, we're on a different podcast. We're talking about nothing actually is the ultimate state. But anyway,
exactly.
the audience right now. So, all right, I want to read the koan now, and it goes like this. The Toltec believe when we sleep, we go into a dream state. When we go into a dream state, we are creating our waking state reality. This is a transmutation of thoughts and visions into matter, an alchemic dance. What dream are you going to dance awake? All right. So there you go. All right.
Neat.
Deep, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Loads of wisdom bombs.
Definite.
Loads of I mean, even I, like I said, Dr. Napoleon Hill, love him. You know, he's inspired this journey, as have you. And I think you made that connection in the first place. So next thing you know, revelations on some of his teachings as well, and how to make it work for you. Ultimately, guys, it's about making it work. It's really important. How are you going to make it work? You know, find the most accessible way for you, the way that you're going to have most fun doing it, have most joy doing it, because that's the way it's going to work. When it becomes strain, stress, tension, you ain't going to do it. You're not going to last. Okay. You need to have something that drives you. Forget about passion, right? Again, we talked about passion on another podcast, right? Passion is like a candle that burns out. Okay. Don't worry about passion. Forget about that. That's a buzzword. A lot of other, it's used too much. Okay. And in fact, it doesn't serve. Do things, right, from an intrinsic state of being in a state of joy all the time. Okay. Now, if you can start to do that and do the things that keep you there, guess what? You're doing things that are keeping you in the now. Okay. That's it. Start there and let it continue. And then you're going to start to feel moments of flow, aha moments, and so on. When you start having those, all right, then start to tap into it a bit more without grasping. In fact, letting it go. You have to let it go. That's the key, right? You know, and then just see where it goes. You'll experience it. You will experience it. Everyone has in some way, shape, or form. Everyone has felt being in the now and the joy and being in flow and feeling bliss, even if it's a minuter. Okay. But can you recall it? And more importantly, forget about recalling it. Can you get there and experience it now?
Definitely.
Experience it now.
Definitely, man. Wow, I think that's a fantastic note to kind of end on, Sifu Lak. Thank you for sharing. And, that was from the amazing book, The Art of Thinking Without Thinking. It's if you want to get a copy, Amazon or even marshallmindpower.com, and just grab a copy from there. And on that note, I think we're good for now. And thank you very much, Sifu Lak, and see you all next time. Thank you very much.